Hey everybody, this is John with the Creature Teacher, and today we're going to meet some really cool little friends that I have here at my house that we use to just educate people about wild animals and why they're awesome and why they're neat. And our first little guest that we have here, this is Hector, and Hector is a chinchilla. We'll get an up-close shot of him there. Now, someone asked, what is a chinchilla? And chinchillas, very simply, are a type of rodent. Now, rodents are a type of mammal that have those very large, giant incisor teeth. You have incisors, you have 4 on top, 4 on bottom, right in the front of your mouth. It's good for chomping through things like apples and carrots. Well, rodents have really big incisors, and a lot of rodents, their teeth are actually strengthened with minerals to make them really hard so that they can chew through all kinds of stuff. Because you know what, he's just not chewing through fruits and vegetables. Sometimes they chew through wood or really hard plants, and since these animals live at really high altitude where it's very cold, the plants up there are really designed to survive really harsh climates. So they're really, really thick and woody and hard to chew through. So he needs really strong, tough teeth to eat his food. Now, because they also live at high altitudes, they have very thick fur. Chinchillas are known for their thick, soft fur. These do have more hair on their body than any other land mammal on Earth. So this thick fur keeps them nice and warm. Now, just like we have hair on our heads, chinchillas have, of course, hair all over their bodies, and we sometimes need to take a shower to clean our hair. Chinchillas, however, cannot get wet. If you were to take a chinchilla and pour some water on them, their fur actually won't dry out because it doesn't rain where they live. They're not around water. So to clean their fur, they actually roll in dust. Now, it's not like the dirt you'd find in your backyard here in Texas. That dust has a lot of volcanic ash in it because there's a lot of volcanic activity where they live, which is also why their fur is a dark color. Now, we don't have a volcano here in Texas, so you go to the pet store and you get chinchilla dust. It comes in a big tub, you scoop a little bit, put it in a little plastic chinchilla bathing house, and they jump in and they kind of do little backflips, and they spin around, and they throw dust all over their fur, and they keep it nice and clean. Chinchillas are just one of the many animals that God made that are really, really cool. There's all kinds of different rodents. If you think of things like squirrels and rats and mice and beavers and even porcupines, those are all rodents. So they're really unique, cool animals that God has made, and chinchillas are one of them. So we'll say bye to Hector for now. We'll let him go back in his house. He's got some nice little food here. There you go, buddy. There's his little bathing house there. He'll probably jump back into that. And now we're going to move on to some other animals. Now for these next animals I'm going to be handling, I like to wear gloves. Now it's not because these animals are dangerous, it's because these next two animals can be very sensitive to chemicals. And when I say chemicals, that means either the way your hands smell, because we have oils on our hands, and you know what, we're large giant things compared to many, many animals, and that might scare them, so we don't want to do that. And also, some animals are very sensitive to things like soap, which if you wash your hands and there's soap residue left on your hands, especially right now with the coronavirus going around, that soap can actually hurt them. We have two animals in here. We have Rojito and Rojita, which are our red-eyed tree frogs. Now we can kind of see them here. They're just kind of sitting in their little house that they have, and this is their typical daytime position. So during the daytime, these tree frogs sit up in the trees. They sit on the backside of a leaf facing away from the sun, and they tuck in their arms and their legs to look like a part of the leaf, and they can change their green color. This is kind of their typical color, but they can darken it considerably. Now obviously right now they don't have red eyes, and that's because they are kind of sleeping. But if I take my finger and kind of just nudge Rojita here, and she is the female, she is much larger than the male. She's not wanting to wake up because she doesn't know if I'm a predator or not. Looks like she wants to stay asleep. We'll see if Rojito will open his eyes for us. Will you open your eyes, little buddy? I guess not. They're really wanting to pretend like they are part of the leaf. She's starting to open her eyes a little bit. Let's see if I can get her to say hello. Here we go. There she is. So you can see those bright red eyes that they have. Now these are a nocturnal animal. Those large, huge eyes help them to see at nighttime. And tree frogs, as someone did ask, do they really live in trees? Yes, they do. These large orange toes that you see, we can kind of turn her a little bit so it's a little bit more visible. These large orange toes that you see, they have sticky toe pads that actually do cling and stick to things. She can stick to glass, leaves, branches, and even your hands if she jumps on them. Now these frogs are quite colorful. If I can get her to walk on my hand, there we go. You can see that bright blue and yellow on the sides of her body. And that's why when they're sleeping during the day, they tuck their legs in very close because they don't want that blue and yellow to be visible, because that would make them stand out very well in the rainforest. There you go. You can see their very long legs. She's an excellent jumper, jumping around there. And someone also asked, where do they live? Do they have houses? So tree frogs don't have houses. Their house is pretty much the tree that they live in. And that's where they live. Whatever tree they're in, that is where their house will be. Now we will close this back up for them, say bye to these two little guys. And this next animal I'm going to bring out, he actually recently just got a little bit bigger. He actually molted, or he shed his skin. So he may not want to be handled right now. As you can see here, this large tank that I have, and this thing. Now, this is not alive. This is a molt, because this animal is a tarantula. And like all arthropods, when they get bigger, they have to shed their outer layer of skin so that they can grow larger. Now, since he just molted, he is a little bit more grumpy than usual. His name is Chewy, and he is right here in this corner, you can see, and he is a Nicaraguan curly hair tarantula. We'll see if we can get him to walk out and say hello. He is a tad grumpy right now, just because he wants me to leave him alone, but we'll see if he'll say hi. He's normally very friendly. Will you stick your hand up and say hello? There we go, and you can see. Now they're called curly hairs because, as you can see, all this hair on his body is extremely long. Now tarantulas are covered with lots of hair, but curly hair tarantulas specifically have really long hair that curls at the end, which is why they get the name curly hair tarantulas. Now, like all spiders, tarantulas are venomous, but a lot of people get scared about it, or they think, oh, is it gonna bite? You know what? He likes to bite things like cockroaches and crickets. Most spiders don't want to eat people. If you bother them and mess around with them in the wild, you know what? Since you're really huge and you're kind of scary, they might try to bite you because they want to be left alone. But most tarantulas are pretty friendly, and they just want to just be in their little house and eat crickets all day. So you don't really have to be worried too much about them. If you were a cockroach or a cricket, then you would want to be worried about a tarantula. Now, someone asked, how do spiders make their web? Now, he's kind of turned around, so it's a little bit difficult to see. We'll see if I can get him to turn his face around. Now, spiders do make different types of web. They all don't make those big webs up in the trees that you might see, or on the eaves of your house. His webbing that he uses, he just kind of uses it to make a house. He doesn't actually put web on the ground to catch insects, but when insects do walk across it, since all this webbing is actually covering kind of the dirt in here, when they walk on it, it makes vibrations that he can feel, and then he can go run over to where they're at and grab them. And the way spiders all make their web is right on the end of his abdomen back here. It's a little hard to see, so we're gonna see if we can get him turned around. Come here, Chewy. Can you walk? Can you walk forward? Thank you, Chewy. Good job. On the back of his abdomen, you can see what looks like two little tiny legs right there. Those are not legs. Those are called, let's see if we can get him in my hand so he's a little bit easier to see. Here we go. So on the back of his abdomen there, it looks like two little tiny legs. Those are called spinnerets, and those are part of the web-producing organs that spiders have. And so when they want to make their webbing, they kind of take their back leg across those spinnerets, and they can pull some web out, or since those can actually kind of move like this, they'll take them and they'll kind of put that webbing out, and they can make the structures like this, or they can make that big intricate web that you see. And again, all spiders have very different silk that they make, or web, for different purposes. Now we're gonna put Chewy back down in here. If you're wondering why his name's Chewy, I happen to like Star Wars, and just like Chewbacca, he is very hairy. We're gonna say bye to Chewy. Now, we're gonna be going from our nice, cool, air-conditioned building where a lot of these guys live to the outside, because the next couple animals live outdoors where it's hot. So, since it's a nice, got a spider molt stuck to me, there we go. Since it's a nice hot day in Texas, we'll get my sunglasses on, we'll come outside, and let's see. So, we have one animal right here we were gonna talk about. So we'll just come right over to her. This is Sydney. Quite obviously, Sydney is a kangaroo, but however, specifically, she is a red kangaroo. Now, if you're watching you'll probably notice she's not very red, and you would be correct. That's because female red kangaroos aren't red, they're actually gray. She only has a little bit of red fur on top of her head right there, and that's pretty much what she'll say. She's wanting to lick my hands a lot. Now, if you've noticed, if you can tell that her arms are very wet, it's not because she sticks her hand in water. Red kangaroos, to cool their bodies off in the hot Australian deserts, spit and lick their arms to cool off. So it's kind of disgusting right now because she's giving me a hug and I'm getting spit all over me. So it'd be like if you spit all over your arms and gave your parents a hug. And they also like to chew and eat things that aren't food sometimes. They're kind of like a goat. Now, a couple people asked, how long do kangaroos stay in their pouch, or do joeys stay with their mom? Now, as they get larger, they can't really go in their mom's pouch anymore, also because the mom's gonna have another baby in there, another joey in the pouch. But a kangaroo will stay with their mom until they're around the age of 2. After that, they'll either kind of stay in the group with all the other females if they're a girl, or if it's a boy, they kind of leave and go start doing their own thing. But usually a kangaroo joey will start coming out of its mom's pouch when it's around 6 to 7 months old. That's when they start kind of hopping around and doing their own thing. Yes, I know. Now, the way kangaroos move, the way they hop is right here. Now, if you look at her foot, she's got a long, huge foot with one huge giant toe and 2 tiny ones on the sides. They're really small. But this thing that you see right here that I'm kind of pinching with my hand, that there is a tendon. So essentially when she's hopping, she's kind of bouncing on a giant rubber band. Are you chewing on my shirt? Yes, you are. They kind of just bounce on this giant tendon just like a rubber band, and that's how they hop. So it's very efficient. It's a very efficient form of traveling. She doesn't use a lot of energy when she wants to hop around, even if she's going really fast. Now, kangaroos are herbivores. They eat all kinds of grasses and plants. They're not very picky since they are a desert animal. Like I said before, they're kind of like a goat, and they will occasionally try to eat things that aren't food, like t-shirts or gloves or shoelaces. They love to chew on shoelaces and they love to ruin them. Oh yes, I know. Now we do have a wallaby somewhere, and actually I see him. He's over here in the back, so let's go look at him. Now someone asked, what's the difference between a wallaby and the kangaroo? And the answer is not a lot. So in general, when people kind of got to Australia and they saw kangaroos, they saw these tall things that hopped and bounced. They said, those are kangaroos. And then they saw these short things that hopped and bounced, and they said, those are wallabies. And then they saw things in between that hopped and bounced, and they said, those are called wallaroos. So it's a little confusing. This here is Wally. He is a red-backed wallaby. He is a little bit, you can see him hopping, there he goes. Now, even though he does look very different than Sydney, Wally, he's a little bit more skittish. Let me see if I can get over to Wally. Here we go. Yeah. Even though he does look very different, he is actually related to the red kangaroo, Sydney over there. They're in the same genus as each other, which is called macropus. That's kind of a weird science word for kangaroos. Now, even though he is about the same size as Sydney, he's actually fully grown. He's about 3.5 years old. So wallabies really don't get that big, and this is one of the largest wallaby species. So they're a lot smaller than kangaroos are. Hey, buddy. But he's very sweet. He's actually my wife's favorite animal. All right, well, we are gonna, you gonna let go of my hand there, buddy? Okay. Thanks, Wally. There we go. Now we're going to go to our last animal that we're going to meet today, and he's walking along the fence. This animal loves to walk. He spends most of his day walking around and eating some of the plants and grasses in the backyard. And this here is Dig Dug. And Dig Dug, he is not a turtle. This is actually a type of tortoise. This is an African spurred tortoise. Now, if you're watching the video and you're going, wow, that tortoise is huge. That's true, he is pretty big, but he's actually only 7 years old. He's a little guy. He's like a little kid. Because when he is fully grown around the age of 30 to 40, he will be about 3 to 3.5 feet long, and he could weigh up to 260 pounds. This is actually one of the largest tortoises on Earth. They are huge, giant animals. Now, you can tell if it's a tortoise or a turtle just by kind of looking at their body. First off, tortoises generally have a domed, high-up shell, whereas turtles usually have flatter shells, and that's because a lot of turtles are aquatic or semi-aquatic, meaning they like to live in the water. And so if you have a big giant shell, it's really hard to swim. Now there are some turtles that have big giant shells, but they don't swim a whole lot. They just run on the bottom of the pond really quickly. But tortoises especially, these front legs and even their back legs are large and kind of stumpy like, because they need their huge legs not only to support their body weight, because if you weighed 200 plus pounds, you would want to have strong legs to carry you, but also tortoises love to dig. That's why his name is Dig Dug. Now, Dig Dug was a video game when I was really young. You probably don't know what it is. That's okay. But the goal of that game was to dig really fast, and that's what Dig Dug loves to do. When he's not eating food and he's not walking around, he is trying to dig holes in the ground. That's because tortoises in their native habitat dig burrows to stay cool during the hot day, because this does come from Africa, from the desert, so it's very hot there. And also to stay warm at night, because deserts are a place of extreme temperatures. It's really hot during the day and it's freezing at nighttime. So he doesn't want to get too cold and he doesn't want to get too hot. Now, there are many types of land turtles and land tortoises. So there's a lot of them. There's over 100 species of turtles and tortoises on Earth. Now there are some turtles called sea turtles that live exclusively in the ocean. And they are quite large, and unfortunately many of them are endangered. Someone also asked, how big are baby turtles? That really depends on the species, but when he was first born, he was no bigger than a golf ball. He was tiny. So most turtles and tortoises, even the huge species that get really big like this guy, when they're first born, could easily fit right on top of his back, right there, just like a little tiny golf ball or ping pong ball. They're very small when they're first born, and they grow very quickly. So even though these are popular pets in Texas, just keep in mind that, you know what, they get big fast and then they dig under your fence into your neighbor's yard and eat all their tomatoes, and they get really mad at you about that. Well, I hope you guys enjoy meeting some of the cool animals that I get to live with every day, get to interact with. Hopefully in the future you'll be able to meet more of them. Again, this has been John with the Creature Teacher, and this of course is Dig Dug. I really enjoyed talking with you guys, and I hope to see you guys again in the future. Have a great day.